Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I am your host, Sharifah Hardy, and thank you for joining me on another episode of Ask Sharifah Videocast. We definitely appreciate your support. But before I go ahead and introduce today's guest, I'm going to ask you to do what I always ask you to do, and that is to go ahead and share this show. I know we're going to share information that your friends, your network, your people, whoever it is, need to hear, especially since everyone's at home preparing for the holidays. There's plenty of time to check out the show and go ahead and share the show because friends don't let friends miss out on Ask Sharifah Videocast. And our guest today is Mr. J. Haleem Washington, and he's going to talk to us about why he is so passionate about hashtag I won't starve. Good afternoon, J. Haleem. How are you?
I'm doing well. How you doing? Thank you for having me.
You are welcome. You had me on your platform. It was such an interesting experience. And when we finished, we said, you know what, we got to do this again or do this in a different way. So now we have you on my platform as Sharifah Videocast and Podcast. So what is this? What is this? I won't starve.
I won't starve is my mantra. About 7 years ago, I was working a real crappy job. For people that might not know, when I was younger in college, I became a felon. And so when I went away, I started a business as soon as I got out of college because I couldn't get that job that everybody, that my degree warranted. So luckily I had the entrepreneurial spirit. So I started a business, but the economy went to crap, as a lot of us know, about 12 years ago. And so I bounced around a little bit, ended up back here in South Carolina where when I went to college. And it was just crazy. It was hard to find jobs and things of that nature. So I still had to take care of my family. My son was being born. So I went and took an $8 an hour job. But in the process of that year of being at that job, I just, just coming back to me like, hey, man, you way better than this. You can do a whole lot more. But, of course, the people around me was just kind of happy for me that, hey, you're doing something now. You're not just, we was damn near on the street. So I'm not on the street then, so they like, stay there, something happened. I said no, so I left the job. Everybody was upset with me, but my words was, I won't starve. So I kept saying that, kept saying it. Then I created a whole movement behind it afterwards after I started becoming more successful with my business. And then I wrote my first book, which is called I Won't Starve. Here it is, my first baby. And it was just a blessing to go ahead and culminate that time to see where I was in 2008 to where I was by the time 2007 came in 2017, I'm sorry. It was just, I was up, then I went all the way down to come all the way back up again, just showing people that I built enough of a platform within myself as a business owner and an entrepreneur to be able to go out and do my own thing. I didn't have to take something less than what I needed to survive and to thrive in this business and pretty much in life.
I can relate because being laid off 8 times, it's an experience I do not wish on anyone, but it just reminds me when you talk about the $8 an hour, because that was the thing for me, is that not only did I continue to get jobs, but my income would fluctuate. I was used to making a certain income, and then at the last minute, just to get a job, just to feed my kids, just to pay the bills, I had to go get a low income paying job that didn't cover half or a third of my bills. So I definitely understand, but how did you know, and how did you come up with the realization that you won't starve?
Well, again, I that year was an interesting year. I was heavily in the church, at that time, and I went to a TD Jakes conference earlier that year, and he had he had this book called Instinct. That's when his book Instinct dropped, and I was crying like a big baby at this conference. I promise you, because he kept saying, "Your instinct is telling you that you're greater than where you are. Your instinct is telling you that you're greater than where you are." And the funny part about it was everybody around me started coming to me, started pointing at me, started coming to me saying, "That's you, that's you, that's you." He's talking to you. It wasn't like, somebody else could have caught it from themselves. All my friends, all my family was like, he talking to you, bro. Like, that's on you. And I'm sitting there just crying and motivated. And so I just put a plan in place. Next few months, I got me an office space. A few months after that, I was out. Like, it just wasn't a game after that. I knew I was better. I had a 6-figure business before I came back. It was just one of those things. Life has kicked my behind for a few years, and I just didn't want to take any more chances. And then having a second child, I was just like, all right, I'm all right. but I had to, go back out there and really do it. I was like a caged lion. And the funny thing, he actually brought a caged lion on stage. And he said this lion was in the cage all his life. He said, so that's all he knows. He said, but why are we still afraid of him then? He said, because at some point, if we happen to let him out, we're afraid that he might remember that he's a lion and do what lions do. And so, that was me. That was my remembrance. And again, that year, I just got on my job and I never looked back.
One of the things that you said you did first was get you an office space. That to me, for someone who doesn't have a job, doesn't have, have an $8 an hour income, how do you come about getting office space?
I was always hustling, so I had my crappy job, but I was a photographer. So I was already taking pictures, doing what I needed to do. I was doing some of everything. I had about 8 jobs. I was renting cars for a car dealership back and forth to the auction. I was at the flea market selling products. I was taking photos. I was, doing all type of stuff. So I just knew what I wanted. When I knew what type of crowd I wanted to work with. I had actually shot with a law firm that year. And then I was like, I love this type of work right here. This was sweet. It was always the families and the parties and all that other stuff. I got a chance to do a corporate gig. And I was like, I like this. I said, so how am I going to be able to attract these people? I said, I need an office space. I need a space where they can come on lunchtime, get their headshots and all that other stuff like that. And I believe that God was on it because it wasn't a hard find. I looked, the guy went in there, I sold myself to this guy. He let me talk for about 10 long minutes. He's like, okay, so when you want to come in? Like, okay, I hear you. When you want to come in? I thought I was going to have to fill out some paperwork or something like that. He's like, nah, you good. But I was selling myself like, you just give me a shot. I won't mess it up. He's like, all right, when you want to come in? I'm like, okay, cool. And I stayed there for 3 years, man. I stayed there for 3 years. And now we had 3,000 square feet space. So we that office was probably half the size of my office now, my one office now. And now I have 3,000 square feet. So it was kind of crazy.
Do you feel that the term hustle or hustling gets a negative connotation?
Yeah, and sometimes it's a it's ironic that you say that because I was just talking to someone about that. It does, because I think sometimes it's untimely. So like for me, I've been hustling all my life since I was a teenager, and it was cute then and in college. But when you 35, it wasn't cute anymore. It's like at this point, I felt like I needed to know what direction I was going in. I've shown for the last 20 plus years that I was willing to do whatever. But at this point, like I needed to actually have some type of direction about me. So I think that it does in some instances. In some instances, it fit the description. But I thought that I outran that term a little bit.
No, I agree, because one of the topics that I speak on, one of the presentations is actually entitled, "Are you operating a business or are you operating a hustle?" And too often people don't understand the difference, and they don't, and there's no judgment in saying this one is right or this one is wrong, but the way they operate is completely different. So when I'm working with clients, I try to figure out what their mindset is. Is there something that they're doing on the side? There's something they're just doing just to make a couple of bucks, as opposed to actual business that they want to create. Do you feel with your business or just with your journey, you got to a point where you looked at it and said, you know what, I want to make this more into a business as opposed to just like a side hustle?
Oh, well, so it was never about the business. It was always about me. So like, I had got a business. I had a real good business. I had a commercial cleaning business in the Washington, D.C. area. My wife lost her job. She had an amazing job on Capitol Hill. And through the Democratic Party, Joe Biden, our new president, his chief of staff was her boss. And so to take that job, he let everybody go with like less than 30 days notice.
Oh, wow.
And so we had to figure it out. I sold my company, in pieces to make sure that we were okay. And again, we bounced around different cities until we got back to where we met in college here in South Carolina. And so it was kind of rough, but I had a great business going at that particular time. It was just a tough situation. It was just everybody looked at me as that, as you the hustler, you're willing to do anything. Now, I know that was like a deposit in the bank account for me now, but it was so horrible going through that years ago. So like when I deal with clients, I can talk to somebody I consulted somebody who just had a big cleaning contract. They was a part of a $30 million deal, and I'm consulting them on the bid. That's because I did that. I've done real estate. I've done 1,001 things And so me having that was a deposit for me. But in the process of who I am myself, I started getting tired of it because who was I didn't take anything seriously. Like, it's because you're a hustler. You can pick this up. You can pick that up. It's like, no, I want to be known for what I'm known for. So that's what made me start taking the camera like seriously. I needed something to stand on for me, not just the business. The business can do whatever, but what can I do if the business is never gone? If I have an opportunity, what can I do to sustain myself instead of hustle?
Yes. I've learned that you never put all of your eggs in one basket. So no matter what, there's still going to be some element of hustling in there. You know, you have to
Yeah.
hustle. For me as an entrepreneur, one of the most difficult aspects was relationships. You know, I've been divorced twice. It's not always easy for people who are employees to live with, be married to, deal with entrepreneurs because we have a
Amen.
different mindset and our income tends to fluctuate, you know, and it's like the song says, you know, can you stand the rain? Like everybody loves the sunny days when you done made more in 1 month than you made all of last year. But when it comes to that month when you're a little low, a little dry, it could do something to your relationship. What were some of the struggles and frustrations that you had?
Oh man, I put that in my first book. You know, my wife she was always cool. I think she was a little too cool though. You know what I'm saying? She was always like, it didn't matter. I'm like, I don't want us. You know, you got the Wife of the Year award. That's cool, but I don't want us on the cardboard box together just because you just want to show you down with me. Like, all my ideas ain't sweet. You know, some stuff is, some stuff ain't. You know, but you know, I started correcting myself, and then she started seeing that within me. So again. Yes, I didn't want the job, but with photography, I said, yeah, I can use the hustle. I'll do it different ways, but I'm going to focus on this so that I know I had something I can actually stand on. And what happened was it actually gave me the career I have now. I don't take as much photos as I used to, at almost none, but I've worked with companies like Nike. I've worked with, you know, all the city and local government and some of everybody, Save the Children Foundation, National Guard, all these type of places. It helped me consult. When I started consulting with teaching other businesses how to get government contracts, it was via the camera, you know, how to deal with celebrities and things like that. The camera got me, you know, the camera had me in the Super Bowl, you know, sitting down with both teams in the Super Bowl. So me focusing on the camera actually opened up the things that I was actually gifted at naturally. So I said, I bought into that. And then I allowed it to work itself out. And it actually put me in the positions where I really, really wanted to be. But she was right there for every step of it. And yeah, we had our ups and downs. She definitely didn't understand. I had more problems with family than her. Like I said, she was kind of cool through the whole thing, but family members, her family members, even some of mine is just looking like, what are you doing? You know, you moving again, or I thought you was doing this. Why are you doing that? And what's going on? I thought y'all was in this size house. Now you in an apartment. What's going on? So, you know, it was that. But she was cool whichever way it went. You know what I mean? A little bit too cool sometimes.
Yes, but let's talk. There's so much in just gold in what you had to say. So I'm gonna pick it apart in different situations, but I want to go back to what you said about all my ideas are not sweet. I think that's wonderful. I think that's gold, like truly gold, because I've coined this phrase called "I have yes but people around me." You know, because they always say you don't have yes people. Yes people are bad. And I say, you know, I have yes but people, because my team understands that if I have this idea, one way or another, I'm going to do it. And so when I first started doing it, everybody was like, yes, yes. And then I was like, wait a minute, why didn't you tell me this, you know, this, or give me some feedback? So now they've learned to say, yes, Sharifah, we know you're going to do it anyway, but think about this. Take this into account. Have you considered this so we can make the idea successful? Have you found more of a partnership with ideas as opposed to just everybody just Jay Haleem said we're gonna do it this way, let's do it this way?
I'm still searching for that. You know, I'm still searching for that. I kind of like tower over a lot of situations. So I've actually been actively searching for that and put myself in other scenarios where I can mesh with other individuals and things of that nature. So it's been an ongoing, you know, struggle with trying, because I read a lot, I study a lot, and it's hard when you know something. They say ignorance is bliss. So when you don't know no better, it's all good. But I know better. I know that if you're the smartest person in the room, and it doesn't mean book smart, so whatever the case may be, but if you on the business side and you the only person that have the drive, the only person that have, that's kind of hard and it kind of stunts your growth. So I've been actively putting myself in positions where I'm around other individuals where I can get poured into as opposed to me just continuously pouring.
Absolutely. Now, if you're just now tuning in to Ask Sharifah Videocast, you want to go ahead and share this show because we are getting gold and jewels from Mr. J. Haleem. He is teaching us about his entrepreneurial journey and how he won't starve. And you know what? You won't starve. So go ahead and share the show. And if you have questions or comments, please feel free to ask them in the chat because we are live. That's right. Your next book, you won't starve. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Oh man, so You Won't Starve kind of it's so funny. A friend of mine and I, we were doing a show called The Building Session, and we started that back in like 2013 on YouTube. And I was talking about this stuff in there then. It's still on my YouTube page now, but it was just one of those things. I felt like I Won't Starve was me talking about how I saved my life via entrepreneurship and how I kept myself from going crazy. And so I took my responsibility on to helping other individuals tell people how I did it, but in the practical terms, so it's called 5 Key Principles of Entrepreneurial Development. I worked out a situation where this is the things that I've done, from hustling while I'm working to understanding how to network to doing business on my own level, market research, as well as strategic partnerships. Those are the 5 principles that I use to get to where I am. It's a lot of people who always felt like they needed $5,000 and $10,000 and $20,000 to get started with a business. That's cool. That's great if you got it. But I never had that until lately when I have started my last couple businesses. But all the businesses I started from scratch, and I moved my way up. And I was trying to teach people you don't have to wait for that to come drop in the mail and then you get started. Start leveraging your partnership. Start knowing your market, knowing what people need. Sometimes just knowing something somebody else don't know can make you money. And it's just wanted to teach people that in a practical manner. So that's why I created You Won't Starve.
You mentioned the word leverage, which is one of my favorite words. When we did the IPO, we raised $6 million primarily through social media. And one of the ways that we did that is we were able to leverage a lot of the content, leverage a lot of the story. And too often people just do one video, we just met, you and I. We could have just said we did that interview, that was it, but we wouldn't have leveraged the relationship. Where do you think that people go wrong in not leveraging their appearance, their brand, their media, their platform?
I think there's a multitude of reasons why they don't do it, where they go wrong. Some people wait for some other people to do it for them. Mm-hmm. Some people, they're just not, some people aren't extroverts. I get that. I talk about that specifically in the networking portion of my book, teaching introverts how to create an atmosphere where people come to you. Because a lot of times the introverts don't have a problem with talking about their business. They just don't want to be the one that go out reaching and grabbing people. So setting up a situation where people can come to you and then you can go ahead and pitch to them. But a lot of people just don't understand the value of relationships. Relationships, you see it in their personal life as well as business, because you can't turn, a lot of people, you got to be real gifted to turn it on and off, okay, this is not personal, this is just business. That's only masters can do that. The average person can't really do that. And so understanding how valuable relationships are. Relationships can be, you can be broke, this other person can be broke, but you can have relationships where you can be in an apartment in 2 days and the other person don't have a relationship, they on the side in the cardboard box. So it's so important. It's the same thing with business. For me, I started making these relationships with this camera. I'm shooting for the government, and I'm behind the scenes and stuff that people couldn't even pay to get to. And so when people seeing me and I'm shaking hands, I'm like, oh, okay, I know something that you don't know. And then I'm working with the airports, I'm working with the city, I'm working with the county, I'm working with this place, the mayor. I'm making relationships. These are vital scenarios. People don't take the camera that seriously, but these are vital situations that we're capturing for these people, and they're never forgetting it. They're like, well, you took photos and Senator so-and-so passed that time, so we need your images to use for his funeral. And they're like, oh man, call that guy. I remember him. And so I'm like, I know all these people. So when I want to take my business to another level and create I Won't Starve, the company, I started reaching out to all of them. And I said, hey, how could y'all help me put this on and help out the entrepreneurs in this area? And, you know, that was just a few years ago. And we helped over 600, you know, entrepreneurs get started and get off to the right foot. But it wasn't just because of me. When they came in there, the city was there, the county was there, the state was there, banks was there. All these people were there for them to have their resources, because these are people I actually work with. So the relationships helped me to get that far that fast.
I definitely agree. You know, your net worth is determined by your network. I really believe that. You know, the people that you have around me, anytime I come up with one of my interesting ideas, let's just say that, I always go out to my network. You know, it takes a lot of funds to run for Senate. I'm running for Senate in 2022. I have to go out to my network and raise that amount of money. So if you have to be able to leverage your network. And also, I think everything comes down to relationships. Relationships are key. I always say it's not who you know, but who's willing to admit that they know you. Right. Wow. So you have to be able to make those relationships. You know how it is. I'm in Hollywood. People always like, oh yeah, I know Jay Haleem. Jay Haleem might be like, Sharifah, I don't know.
I understand. That never happened, but I understand.
Yeah, so again, in the comment section, I want to thank Franklin for tuning in. Tamika Sims says, yes, relationships are key. Hashtag I won't starve. Hashtag you won't starve. So Tamika is definitely a friend and supporter of Jay Haleem.
Yeah, that's my folks. No, but you said something that's amazing. You know, who is willing to admit that they know you? That's a big deal. That's a good question. That's a good question. There's a lot of people name drop, but you know, you gotta kind of put it out there. Like, do they know me? You know what I'm saying? It was so funny. My daughter, the mayor came to speak at my daughter's school, and my daughter said, yeah, I went to the mayor and I told him I know you. He said, yeah, I know Jay. Jay's a great photographer. So that made me feel it made me feel in a good way, because, you know, to her, she was like, oh man, I'm cool in front of my kids, in front of my friends, because of something my dad did. So that was real cool. You know what I'm saying? That made me feel good.
Yes, I had an experience like that myself. I was sitting on a panel with some other people, and I was sitting on the panel with the district attorney for Long Beach. And after the panel, we were talking. He was like, I've never met you in person, but I know your name. And I was like, wow, that was kind of cool, because, you know, we don't usually want the man, you know, to know our names, because they usually don't know it for really good reasons. So I was like, this is kind of cool. I had just ran for city council. My name, my brand was out there, but you never know who's seeing you, who's getting your brand. But I want to go back to something that we were talking about earlier when we talked about the family. One of the things that I was told back in the early 90s, when I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom and work remotely, which everyone is doing now, was that I was lazy. And it was because I did not have a 9-to-5. It had nothing to do with how much money I made, how much money I earned, what I had in the bank. It was just, there was a mindset that if you don't go physically to a job, you were lazy. That was it. So did you ever have that type of feeling or response from anyone around you?
Oh yeah. When I was in college, you know, I jumped off to entrepreneurship very, very quick. You know, we were dabbling in the club business here, restaurant, all that type of stuff. I mean, we was young. I'm like 19, 20 years old. And I had people, I'm in HBCU, and I had people saying, well, you're lazy. You should wait till you graduate and go to work. You shouldn't be worried about that till you in your 30s. And these are all African Americans, and some of them I, you know, love. Not telling me the game and telling me where I could have been a prodigy, where I could have probably been rich at 25, you know, or at 30. They're trying to throw salt in the game, and, you know, and cold water on my movement. So that sucked. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to help so many people, because when you see somebody that had it in me like me, I mean, I've been doing this thing since I was 13 years old, 14 years old, for real. And so, like, somebody got to be around and see that in me and be like, look, go ahead and push, because this cat can be something amazing in the next 10 years. But I never had that. It was always, you know, say, yeah, that boy is a hustler, boy. You know, I know you got something going on. And then it gets to the point where you can't ever be in a bad space, because even if you can be better, man, he might be just high and he ain't really messed up. I tell people in my book we were eating from Harvest Hope. Now, Harvest Hope over here is like the Salvation Army. You know, we were getting groceries from there for a couple months 7 years ago. And so people like, man, I didn't know that. Yeah, because y'all always think that I'm up because of the hustle. You know, it's like, well, even if he's down, he might be just holding out for something. Like, no, I might not have two nickels to rub together. So it's real hard being put in that space because you can't really get the help. Or nobody's not looking at you. It's like, he'll be all right, they'll be all right. So it's tough. But yeah, I had that a lot, man. I had that a whole lot.
You mentioned, Jay, that you have an entrepreneur spirit since you were young, since you were a kid. One of the questions that I often ask people is, do they feel like it's a calling? You know, because I always feel any entrepreneur in some form or way, it's like something they have to do. Not like a job is something that you decide, let me go take this job. Most entrepreneurs, even when they've been employed, they go back and forth, but they always go back to that entrepreneurial spirit because it's something that they can't stop if they wanted to. Is that how you feel?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I can't never I've never had a job longer than a year. Like never. And I have a degree, all that, you know, but my degree is in business. When I played basketball in high school, and you know, they would talk to you when they start talking about, hey, if you're gonna go to college, that what's your fallback plan? It was always, yeah, I'm gonna get a degree in business. You know, that's all I did. As soon as I got to high school, I'm selling bus tickets. If for people who don't know, you know, in the New York, New Jersey area, we have bus tickets for the kids, the little small little tickets that you use, you know, it's discounted tickets for the bus. Well, I was selling them to the kids in school, from my freshman year on out, you know, and that was a very, very lucrative because I went to a real good school where all the kids in the county came to that school. So everybody had to catch some type of mass transit, and their parents would give them $10, $20 for the week. Well, the bus tickets cost half the price. So they got an extra $10 in their pocket if they come and see me. And they look forward to that. You know what I'm saying? They was counting on that. And so my godmother and my aunt worked for the transit station, and we would get rolls of those things. She would give them to me because I'm the oldest grandchild, so I was the only one catching the bus to school at the time. And so look, I had rolls of those things, being able to sell them and having my little cartoon Not of Money with a bunch of, you know, like 220 with a couple of ones, a bunch of ones underneath it. But I already had that feel in me, you know, all through school. And, you know, of course, doing a whole bunch of other nonsense. But that was always in me. And every time I did have a job, I was like, how can I do it better? How can I do this for myself? You know, I never, ever wanted to stay at a job. And I probably wouldn't want to stay at one ever. And I'm okay with that. But I think it is a calling. I think it was something that was dropped on me.
It was something that you said. Like for me, the longest job that I've ever worked was for 4 years. But I can tell you this, I was young. I was 18, right out of high school, went to work for TWA, for Trans World Airlines. But within that 4 years, I never stayed at one position for longer than 6 months. I found that 6 months is my point where I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. It was fun, it was good, but you hit a wall. And for me, especially with income, I can have to be limitless, you know, because I'm like, I've earned that amount of money. Now I want more. And if I can't get more within that position, then I want to go somewhere else. I want to do something else and not be stuck in this position.
Yeah, that was the promise before, though. That was the promise. They always said, like, when we were growing up years ago, they were saying, you go to this job, you'll probably be in that position for a year or so, and then you'll get a raise and all that other stuff. But then it started changing. And even when you go to college, you automatically get a job and all that stuff. And all that stuff started changing. So when you get into there, you're like, okay, well, in a year, I'll be here. Then, you know, you might hang around. But when they start changing, you know, switching up the game on you, say, no, you're not getting no raise, you're not getting this, you're already looking at something else already. And me, I've always had side hustles, even if I had to take a job for a little bit of time. When I moved to DC, I took a job because I didn't know the area. But, you know, within a year, I was gone. You know, I was out doing my own thing, full speed ahead. That was the longest I ever been on a job. So, you know, I was like, hey, look, it is what it is. I know I'm, you know, my pastor told me in 2007, I just wasn't listening. He was a young guy as well. He said, you ever thought that you wasn't meant to work for nobody? And it took me almost 7 years for me to actually take his advice. But he said, he spoke that to me. He said, you wasn't meant to work for nobody, man. And, you know, I believe he was prophetic in that word.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you feel that it was because of the way you were raised? Maybe all your siblings are the same way, or do you feel that it was just something that's in you?
That's in me. That's a God thing. I have no entrepreneurs in my family. In my lineage, nothing. I'm the first. I think some other ones are going to started trying to do it. Even older, I looked at my father's side of the family. Some of them started being entrepreneurs later on, but I was always the first. that I can document that I know of. So I don't have no track record of that in my family. It was just, getting introduction to the streets. I was always a good kid, so I never really actually wanted to be in the streets, but I did what I felt like I needed to do at the time. But I always was looking for my way out, my exit out. And so, but taking that same mentality and that approach to something that was legal and something that was upstanding was always set for me. And I wanted to do that same thing.
On your journey, what are some things that you wish you would have known early on that you learned along the way?
It's so many. I don't know how much time we got.
Give me the top two.
I'm the first to do everything in my family, so I took all the hits. Mm-hmm. I took all the pitfalls. You know what I'm saying? I did all the wrong moves to get right. You know what I'm saying? So what I wish I known, and you say like the top two, I just wish I had a little bit of guidance. Mm-hmm. I wish I had a little bit of guidance when it comes to, going out into the world. And then I wish I'd have took college seriously the first time around. Mm-hmm.
What would you have done different?
I mean, I was just wilding out like a lot of us, but I didn't understand how important it was at that time. And I'm about to start back graduate school now in January. So
congratulations.
Thank you. So I'm going to graduate school. I could have been did all of this. You know what I'm saying? I actually want to be a PhD. So I didn't know that. Anybody who probably listening live now probably ain't nowhere in the world this dude, not Jay, but I understand what education and mastery means. I understand what mastery means now, and I didn't before. It was like, let's get a little bit and keep it moving. But now I appreciate mastery a lot. The people who are masters at what they do, they got that 10,000 hours in. They really truly won't starve, and that's what I'm looking for.
Do you believe that people won't starve just simply because of their experience, because of their skill set, because of their mindset? Why do you feel that people will not starve?
I Won't Starve is based off of my quote, and it's the platform you leap from is more important than the platform you land on. So in your area, you saw a lot of people, a lot of these celebrities paying a couple $100,000 to get their kids in some school in the scandal. It cost more than what the college education was. But they understood getting them kids in a certain type of platform would have put them in a situation where they knew they were good regardless of what. And so they was willing to pay way more than what college costs to get their kids there. And it's the same thing with us. In our community, we don't focus on building that platform. We play the lottery game. It's like, I got 4 kids, 2 might make it, 2 might not, 3 might make it, 1. It's like, no, you got to build a platform so where it's automatic. And so for me, I had to reflect on my platform that I built. Okay, you've been hustling, doing this since you was this age. You've built this type of business. You've been around this. You didn't just do business in small South Carolina. You did it in major DC. You worked all over the country. You've done this, you've done that. Ain't no way you think that you're going to be able to starve. And it was totally, off of that, like, okay, you good. And so now all I do is continue to build bigger platforms so that I can leap higher and go higher. And so that's what this is about. So if you're willing to build a proper platform, maybe you're in the basement right now. So now you got to build your way to the first floor. But what happens? How far can you jump if you're jumping from the roof? So you got to start building up these platforms to get you at a higher level so that you can take off and jump. But that's why that's more important the way you land, because as long as you got something in you, you'll be all right. I know coming from your area, you feel like you can do whatever, wherever you go. If you can do it in Long Beach, you can do it wherever. Well, I come from Newark, New Jersey, right outside of New York City. I'm good. I'm good. I did a whole bunch. I wasn't just on the porch when I was in Newark. I was off the porch. So I'm good wherever you put me at. And I had to, sometimes you got to remind yourself of that.
Yes, but you also made a very important distinction. A lot of states send their homeless to Southern California or to California because they know they literally won't freeze to death in Southern California. So being in Newark, New Jersey, being in DC, I was born in DC. So I understand that East Coast hustle, it's a lot stronger a lot of times because in California, we may not starve, but we're also not going to freeze. We can still go lay down by the beach and enjoy our lives and think and wonder about what we're going to do tomorrow. Whereas whereas on the East Coast, the snow, I got to figure it out. I might, freeze to death laying on this bench all night. So it's a different type of hustle. Would you agree?
Yeah. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I just think about big cities, and I've seen the Northern Cali tent city. It's something. It's just when you go and you think about somebody over there have to pay $3,000 a month for just a 2-bedroom apartment, and you come to somewhere like South Carolina, you get a 2-bedroom apartment for under $1,000. You like, I'm good. If this is all I gotta make, I'll be all right. That type of thing. That's what I was talking about. It's just a different situation. You be like, really? And y'all crying? Y'all say that's too much? Oh man, thank you. Let's do it. I'm happy about this.
Yeah. We pay for the sunshine. That's what we gonna go ahead and pay that $3,000 so we can have the sunshine and no snow. Now you mentioned your children, your family. It seems that you're a family man. I believe in generational wealth. I believe in financial literacy. What are some of the skill sets that you have instilled in your children early on so that they can avoid some of the pitfalls that you've experienced?
Man, my kids are already entrepreneurs. My daughter just put her book out, her first book, October 2nd, she released it. She has her own nonprofit called ABC, short for Anti-Bullying Club. So she's 12. So she's already going, she just got finished doing a speaking engagement in DC with the links, and she's working with, different places. She's been on the news, a bunch of times. So she's already doing it. My son and I, we partnered together. He's only 7, but we created, J Squared, because he's a junior, athletic company. So if COVID didn't happen, we were supposed to have our first basketball camp this summer. I wasn't really pleased with the what he had to offer, what they had to offer for him around it. So I told him, I was like, we can create our own. So not that I won't patronize that, but I still wanted something else. And so a friend of mine and I have a friend out of DC. He actually is a trainer for the Washington Wizards. And so we were going to partner up. He was going to come down and we're going to do our first camp. And that was going to be his camp, to go ahead and do. Because again, I want them to understand that they can do their own thing. My daughter wanted to do her nonprofit with some friends of hers, some classmates, but the school was like, no, they didn't take it seriously. Well, I said, baby, I got room for you. Do it here. You don't have to wait on them. And she did it. And then because of COVID, she was in the house. I'm like, okay, well, you can do a book. I do it. She did the book. And now she has 2 more. She's actually writing her second one as we speak. So for the break. So she's trying to get a lot done over the break so she can be ready by spring break, it'll be out. So I'm just, my kids, that's my son, again, that was the push. He was there when I first got to office and he was crawling, and that's all he ever saw is his dad in this space. My daughter saw a little bit more, but that's all he knows. So he calls himself Mr. Washington. They play office in the house, and they got their own little space in here whenever nobody's in the office. So that's all they know. They're interested in education. My wife's an MBA. I'm about to be an MBA, and I say I want to be a PhD. So they understand the educational portion, but they understand why to use that tool, not to do it for no reason.
No, they, have an entrepreneurial father. They have a mother who has an MBA. I know there still must be moments when they get frustrated, or I don't know if I can do it, or this looks harder than, maybe they say, Dad, you make this look easy. What are some of the pep talks and motivational talks that you give to them?
Oh, well, the funny thing you said that my daughter, she's very gifted. She's a very gifted speaker. And I told her recently, I said, hard work beats talent when talent don't work hard, because she likes to relax. She likes to hang out. She's Roblox and TikTok and all that stuff. And I'm saying, because it come easy to you right now, don't mean you don't got to continue to put in the work. And so I kind of tell her, put in that work, put in the work. We're talkers. We come from that. We're talkers. But I still want you to actually study your craft, get better at it. Make sure you're not, just saying, okay, I could just show up and I could put on, keep a word in your pocket. Because I've been called through this quarantine time. People say, hey, yeah, I want you to come over here and join our telecast or whatever they're doing. Next thing you know, yeah, we have Haleem Washington here. He's going to say some words. I'm like, nobody told me that. You said join. Next thing you know, you're like, hey, yeah, you got 15 minutes. And I got to have something to say. So I just try to teach her about that situation. My son, I just tell him right now it's all about putting in the work. I put him in boxing this summer, as soon as they opened up a little bit. And so I would go with him and he like, Dad, you got to put in that work. You got to put in that work. So I would go with him so that he would see that, he saw me laid out because I put on a lot of weight. And so when I went back to the gym, I was laid out in front of my car. But he saw that with me beating him around the block, at the while. He saw the work with me putting it in. So for him, I just show him by example. I go with him to basketball. I play ball with him, things of that nature. I have my friends around. I got friends who are coaches. I invest in him, and say, hey, I want you to train my son. I want you to do this. So he looks forward to that, that situation. He's always in it. And, he does work hard. He's very coachable, so they're there now. I just tell them to stick with it.
Mm-hmm. For new entrepreneurs starting off, or maybe they're still at their day job and they would love to become an entrepreneur, what is some advice you have for them?
Oh man, get started now. If you are at your day job, get started right now. That's one of the biggest things. Everybody just be waiting on some special time. There's no time like the present. You know what I'm saying? Get started now. This is your market research. I always say, you fry the best chicken. Start letting some people taste that chicken now besides the people in your house. Because even if you have a bad day, they're going to still be thankful that you did your thing. But start giving some people you don't know your chicken. Start seeing what they say about it. Say, hey, it's a little too salty, a little too this. And start learning about it. Get that education. Get this book. Get You Won't Starve. And also I Won't Starve, because you'll get a chance to know me. At the end of the day, I'm not nobody special, like whereas though I had a lot or somebody gave me. I come from, I love my family. We were rich in love, but we weren't rich in nothing else. And that was it, and it was 15 of us in a 3-bedroom apartment.
Oh, wow.
And I just happened to get out, by the skin of my teeth, because a lot of my friends didn't. And I was able to get away and put my talents, but it was hard. They could not help me. My family couldn't help me. There was nothing they could tell me to do with college. They hadn't been in college. There was nothing they could do with entrepreneurship. They hadn't been there. They could have told me about being a felon, but I didn't want to hear about that. I wanted to do the other part. That wasn't going to help you. That was the part I was trying to shake. You know what I'm saying? So it's nothing special about me, but I did it. And, you talk about my wife hasn't worked in years. She actually probably going to go back to work. She want to do some things, but she hadn't worked in years. And we're still doing very, very well. So that was something that I was happy about, having an opportunity to take care of my family, and her trusting that what I've created can take care of us, and it has.
I think that's beautiful. We have a Emerald M. Washington who tuned in. She sent you some hearts and said, you are a great example, Jay Haleem. So again, if you have questions or comments, please go ahead and ask them. We are speaking to Mr. Jay Haleem Washington. Hashtag I won't starve. Hashtag you won't starve. Now we are coming down to the last few minutes of the show. And what I love to do at the end of every show is just simply allow my guests the opportunity to speak directly to the audience, to everyone who is watching the show live, as well as everyone who is watching it in the archives, and let them know what you want them to take away from your appearance here today.
Well, one of the major things to take away is, if you listen to this whole thing, is about relationships. Of course, I definitely met this lovely young lady because she has an amazing platform and she's doing wonders. So I thought that she'd be great to be on my platform and learning more about her. So I thought that was dope. But in return, she offered me to be here as well. She was gracious enough to let me be here as well. And I think that this is not going to be the end of this relationship. I'm in South Carolina. She's all the way in LA, well, in Long Beach. I love California, if you don't know me. So I'm looking forward to when they open up, put my eyes on her and us doing some real business and things of that nature. So relationships is the number one thing. But, I won't starve. Again, it's not just about me. Again, as I said before, the platform you leap from is more important than the platform you land on. Start building your platform. It's truly, truly, truly about where you're jumping from. I mean, again, if you don't have a good foundation, start building one now. People always say that and they think it's just, jargon. But no, it's the truth. Start building the foundation. What do you have to jump off? What do you have to stand on? If you don't have nothing to stand on, that sinking sand is not good for you. So you got to go ahead and start building that up right now to know that you don't stop. So you can tell your family, because you're going to start second guessing yourself. And you got to start looking over your own resume. Like, when I had bad times, I'm like, man, you did this, you did that, you did this. Ain't no way. And then you can go and start, let me go ahead and pull on that. And so I started adding to the resume, start being more productive. I'm certified in this now, certified in that now. And I didn't realize that, hey, that opened up some more doors for me, but that's more of a platform. Now I can go ahead and step to another level. So build your platform. Don't just go out there just jumping from the basement. You're not going to get too far. Build your platform so you can go as high as you can. If you can take that good jump, that good leap. And then lastly, I would say, as you're climbing, leave whatever you have there, whatever you got on this level, leave it there. Because you can't climb the ladder with your hand full of stuff. Leave it for somebody else. They're going to need it for that level. Whatever you got in that level is already waiting on you when you get there. So leave that stuff there. Go up there with free hands. You put that stuff in your book, in your backpack. Make sure it's small. That lets you know the stuff you taking with you is small enough to fit in your backpack. So all that other stuff, leave for somebody else. And you climb up there so you can have your hands wide open and accept what's waiting on you at your next level.
I think that's powerful. Where can we find more information about you?
Well, just Google J Haleem. I am J Haleem on all my social media platforms. It was so funny. I was in Miami for my anniversary, and we were on a boat with another couple, and the guy said, "Hey man, I just got your book." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Yeah, I Googled you. I Googled I Won't Starve." So if you just put I Won't Starve in Google, you'll see all the stuff about me come up. I Won't Starve Academy. We're teaching entrepreneurs, primarily African Americans. We're trying to help our individuals get we got to save ourselves. I believe in SOS, saving ourselves, not waiting on someone else to save us. I'm helping other individuals, but primarily I'm helping out African American entrepreneurs or future entrepreneurs become what they need to be. So look us up if you're looking to take a class and things of that nature.
I think that is so powerful, and I support you. I applaud you. I'm going to have to go and make sure that we're connected on all the social media platforms, because I agree, this is definitely not going to be the last time we talk, we collaborate, we speak, because you have so many wonderful things going on. Definitely want to talk and sit with your children. Love to talk about your daughter's book and your son's organization. We have to give them a platform as well to get their voice out there. But I definitely just want to thank you, J Haleem, for being a guest on today's episode of Ask Sharifah Videocast. And
thank you for having me.
You are welcome. And I especially want to thank everyone who tuned in to watch the show live, as well as everyone who is watching it in the archives. But please don't just watch the show. Please support our guest. His website information is in the Facebook post. Check it out. Check out the Academy. Check out both of his books, all of his books, and see what you can do to be a part of what J Haleem has going on. And if you want to be a guest, please visit my website at AskSharifah.com. Until next time, everybody have a happy holidays. Stay safe, wear your mask, and you know what? Be blessed. Bye now.